Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world everybody is connecting in from. Thank you so much for carving time out of your days to connect for another webinar of CMO Peer Talks. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. We have people connecting in right now, so just giving everybody a few seconds to connect in and get their audios connected. Taylor, how's your day looking?
It's looking great. Excited to be here with everyone. Excited to talk about some of the fun parts of marketing and to share experiences.
It's great. It's great to have you. And one more second and let's get started.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Got Carl connecting. If everybody feels free to engage, please. The comment section is on. Drop in where you're connecting in from, what brand you're with, what got you excited to connect today. Let's keep it as engaging as possible. And on that note, we're on the 2-minute mark. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for connecting in, carving time out their days, and connecting in for a live iteration of CMO Peer Talks. For those connecting for the first time, CMO Peer Talks is the #1 community for innovative franchise marketers, and our end goal is to empower franchise marketers to truly become fearless innovators. Feel free to scan the QR code if you have yet to join. We typically host events once per month, and we'd love to see everybody connecting in more often. Quick introduction to myself. My name is Alex Harbinyoff, and I will be the host today. I am a local marketing expert at Promo Republic. Been in franchising now for almost 6 years, learning something new every day. Have the great opportunity to meet with a lot of our partners and customers and really understand all the different facades of marketing in the digital space, especially between franchise and multi-location businesses. When I'm not working, I'm a dad to one high energy little boy where 2 years and 5 months, learning new skill sets, mainly scaling, jumping, climbing on absolutely everything that shouldn't be climbed. Based out of Wilmington, North Carolina, where typically we have blue sunny skies, but it's been a week of nonstop rain. So hopefully that changes toward the weekend. Now for the star of the show, passing the mic over to Taylor for a quick introduction.
Hi, everyone. So pleased to be here with you today. My name is Taylor Hullick-Smith, and I am the VP of Brand Strategy and Design at Head to Toe Brands. That is a portfolio of beauty brands, including the Lash Lounge, where I have been for just over 7 years, Frenchie's Modern Nail Care, and Bishop's Cuts and Color. But I have been in franchising, I'm embarrassed to admit, just over 15 years now. I started my career in entertainment startups in the PR space before transitioning to the agency side, where I built social media programs and teams, and then found myself on the client side just about 7 years ago, where I committed to franchising lifestyle brands with an emphasis on service brands. And I'm really excited to talk to you today because what's really motivated me about marketing is the cultural intersection, and social media and Gen Z is really the manifestation of that. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today. And just like Alex, I have a 4-year old and a 2-year old, two cats and a dog that are my life outside of work.
Love it. That sounds like a very busy house.
Yes,
Thank,
it is
thank,
indeed.
thank you for taking the time to then share expertise with us today. Greatly
Yes,
appreciated.
absolutely.
Quick shout out to Promo Republic. As always, CMO Peer Talks is brought to you by Promo Republic. For those of you who are not aware, Promo Republic is a solution designed to support multi-location and franchise brands with all of their local digital marketing needs to really consolidate the overall tool stack, gather and compile all of your on-brand assets, organize data from the brand down to the level of a franchisee or a location, and really streamline all of your workflows in one intuitive dashboards. We're really built from the ground up to truly activate your local social media pages, amplify your brand reach, foster and manage your online presence and brand reputation to ultimately attract more foot traffic, more leads that have a high buying intent for your franchises and for your locations. If you're currently evaluating your marketing tech stack, if you have a unique bottleneck that you're experiencing with your workflows, or you're simply curious to learn more, please drop me an email, call, text, or DM to my LinkedIn, and I will be happy to give a tailored walkthrough of our solution. With no further ado, let's dive right in. We have an agenda with 5 key topics, so let's jump right into topic number 1. Taylor, Why does Gen Z scroll past traditional brand content, as I like to call evergreen content, and what actually gets their attention and gets them to stop that dumb?
That's a great question, Alex. But before we get started, I think for those of you that are new to the generational divides, we maybe should just define what Gen Z is. So there's a little bit of back and forth on this, but Gen Z typically comprises ages 13 to 28, and millennials are the generation just before that, and they're 29 to 44. I'm sure none of you on this call are surprised to hear that I'm not actually Gen Z. So to prepare for this conversation today, I decided to not stay in a state of denial and talk to two fabulous women on our content team at Head to Toe Brands, Olivia Marshall, a content manager, and Jess, our content specialist, not because they are Gen Z themselves, but also because they are the masterminds behind our content strategy, our content production, and then analysis of what's working. So shout out to them for sharing their brains. A lot of what you hear today is going to be insights compiled by them as well. But what I did find really interesting about my conversation with both Olivia and Jess is that while trends today and channels today may be different from when I was working in social media full time at agency side, a lot of the same principles still apply today. And I think that's really important as we are talking about what's it right now, is to extract those principles and think about how to apply them as there it most certainly will be a new technology that replaces the ones we're going to talk today. And the ones that I'm going to be primarily focusing on as we go through this presentation are the social networks where we know that Gen Z is congregating. And those primary ones are TikTok and Instagram. We know we can't extract engagement activity by demographic, since we know that they're congregated there. That's primarily what we're going through. So just kind of short disclaimer before we get into the meat of this question. So why does Gen Z scroll past traditional brand content, and what actually gets their attention? So I think the biggest thing is authenticity, not being overly salesy. And believe it or not, this isn't new. Social media wasn't created to be an advertising space. Of course, it's been monetized over the years, but what originally drew people to the social environment was the ability to connect with people, connect with brands, have one-to-one relationships based in authenticity of people and brands. So for businesses, a top of the funnel play. So it's not necessarily to sell, it's to entertain, to educate, and to inform, provide awareness, and ultimately make it so that they trickle down the funnel so that they get to the point where that there's intent in purchase. Now, I will say that as of late or so, the proliferation of e-com online retailers has drastically increased, and we've got tons of larger brands that have e-com environments. So things like TikTok Shop have been game changers for people starting to associate social environments as a place where they might get to purchase, and sometimes quickly. So I want to say that while that is possible for those transactions to happen, it's mostly for product brands that have an e-com component. Outside of authenticity, let's talk about language. So speaking to humans, normal, not being weird, not trying to force anything, being really in touch with your brand voice. So being conversational, using emojis, understanding slang, maybe breaking some grammatical rules in order to participate in the conversation today, lowercase captions, just being real. You know, there was this one of the brand platform work that we did for the Lash Lounge several years ago, and it was describing our brand voice and how we wanted to connect with the guests that come into our salons. And it was speak like you're talking to a girlfriend. And that really helped just ingrain our brand voice into my psyche so that when I'm writing copy, that oozes out. I exuded that conversational mood, to voice, and tone. I think one thing, again, that has stood the test of time about what gets Gen Z or people in general to stop scrolling is relatability. So anytime that someone stops going a million miles a minute and does this, we can see themselves in your post. Your post is either speaking to their problem, who they are as a person, what they like, or who they want or are proud to be. So always putting that in your mindset when you're sitting down to craft a post or to shoot a video is imperative. Um, One of the things we've really seen, especially in the beauty, has really been in proliferation in marketing since the late 2010s is imperfections in marketing, not always using airbrushed aspirational models or celebrities to be the face of your product, especially in beauty. That standard is we are incorporating real people, diversity in age, shape, size, race, etc. And understanding that when you use this product or service, it's going to be placed on you or people that look like you or that you relate to. And then it's always not going to be picture perfect, and finding that balance between presenting something that is aspirational yet accessible and relatable. Trends. They're stopping for trends. TikTok is all about trends, and it's the fastest moving trend space we've ever seen. What is in today could be out tomorrow. So as a brand, both at the franchisee level, it's figuring out how to capitalize on those trends, not just for the sake of doing it. It's kind of akin to 10, 15 years ago when brands would be like, it's National Cheese Day. Let's post a post about cheese. And your brand is like home cleaning services. Like that doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to capitalize on a trend in the TikTok environment, make sure it's not just for the heck of it, that it has brand connection and depth. Some of the most recent trends we've seen brands really grasp hold of are the Love Island, I'm a mommy, Mamacita trend, the Abby Lee Miller pyramid scheme, the recently in July, that I got hashtag it's given vacation to talk about entering a new environment or giving a reminder, or I just saw one of a last check getting a notification she got a booking. So really making that relevant to your brand. In terms of imperfections, UGC, user generated content, is huge. So not necessarily relying on these full production polished videos and models that you have cast, but real people creating content that showcases their experience or their emotional rewards from your brand. Story CPAs. So stories on Instagram is not the normal post environment, but it is creating a short-term story where the entire thing is created to get the viewer to do something. So if your entire story is about a Q&A and that's all they can do with it, they're more likely to engage. If it's about a poll, they love to engage really quickly and see results, how they compare in this larger community. If it's moving a slider to say how much they like a product or a service or a staff member, that's really easy. Let's see what else. Giveaways. This is tried and true. Doesn't matter which generation you're trying to reach. If someone can get something for free for a little bit of effort or even more effort, depending on the prize, they're going to do it. So it could be as simple as asking them to tag or follow or answer a question or comment with an emoji, or it could be interactive. Like, for instance, us, it was guessing how many jelly beans were in a jar on a salon's desk. Those have always been and have, like this year even, our top 4 posts on Instagram and the most successful for us in generating new community. I mean, I can go on and on. There's pretty stuff. This sounds dumb. This has been true for previous generations, but for generations today, especially in beauty where I sit, but you can't deny that people unconsciously respond to people who are classified as traditionally beautiful, as much as we don't like to admit it, and as much as we're trying to change the narrative in beauty. People will stop. Same for products. So if you've got products with beautiful packaging, if you are experimenting with AI to animate those products like L'Oreal is doing into different settings, people will stop. There's this brand, the disruptors in the industry. if they don't look like everything else that they're seeing. There's this brand called The Ordinary. It's a British skincare brand that is not advertising or creating social posts with models or people. It's literally just a white background sticking to the scientific facts about the makeup ingredients in their products and scientifically how it's going to benefit people. That's in products for Gen Z texture. So it's not always the product packaging or the person that the product is servicing. It's how beautiful is the texture. In beauty, it's the facial cleansers, the pump of the foam out of the bottle. It's mixing facial cream. It's the crackling of a blush or the swipe of a nail polish brush on a canvas. It's something that is just inherently abstract and beautiful to look at, playing to the senses, just like ASMR. If you've never heard of ASMR, this is like kind of what you could think of being on like a white noise machine. So it could simply be like in our industry, like the noise of a fan after a lash service, or pumping the facial cleanser bottle, or quiet murmuring, or crumpling up a piece of paper. Like, this is so odd to me, but it's been popular for so long and Gen Z responds to it. And then I think most recently food marketing. So again, speaking to the sense in foods that you can associate with your product or service intelligently, that people can taste, smell, feel in a way that motivates them or engages them.
A lot to kind of hone in, and I could see you have trends and best practices and tips for days. Kind of what honed out and stuck out to me the most is A, know who your audience is, B, know where they're searching, C, connect to their lifestyle, put yourself into their shoes to really kind of feel how they would want to engage with your brand and make that very predictable because you know who your ideal audience and target is, and completely agreed on kind of making it a multi-sense experience where we want to relay a specific feeling when somebody engages with our brand, with our products. How do we kind of hone in and make that an identical and replicatable experience? I guess a small pivot point here coming in from a franchise point of view, how are you kind of ensuring to that same feeling of if I was to reach out to my girlfriend, how do you ensure that each one of your franchisees hones in because they're the storefronts of the brand and they're delivering the brand experience?
That's a really, really great point, Alex. And how we have done it in the past is to think about how maybe a traditional brand book or brand guide might not be accessible or digestible by franchisee. Like, oftentimes those are wrought with like fancy marketing theory language that someone who has no previous experience in marketing, as a like someone that came from a finance background, would be like, what does this mean? So what we've done in the social arena that we have found to be very effective is translating that brand book to a social format, where we're teaching people about our colors, about our voice, about how to properly design, where to place logos, where not to place them, how to credit when necessary, how to like what not to do in that arena. So it's making our standards accessible and quickly scannable, in addition to utilizing things like Canva, which I think I'll talk about a little later too, to make it easy for them so that they don't have to think so hard about the must do, must do, must do. Here are all like the components that relate to my brand in terms of color, font, line spacing, padding, all those things, and just kind of doing it for them so that they are dialed in to what you just talked about, which is their audience and how are we going to create a compelling message that resonates with them, and not having to worry so much about the creative packaging.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And that ultimately opens up the door to pivot from strictly customer generated content strategy to a franchisee generated content strategy. And a couple ideas on my side is how to further unpack that brand guideline and make it more digestible is actually featuring content that's captured or created by a franchisee that's performing and looking well. And it kind of sets a two-way side collaboration between what are we doing from a brand to kind of ensure that we're setting the foundation out there. How do our franchisees hyper shine that further?
Mhm.
Next Next question. So, how do fast visual influencer culture and local authenticity shape brand trust today? As a franchise brand, how do you tackle cultural and industry trends that require near real-time participation?
This is such a good question. So I think I'll start with fast visuals. So way back in the day, I used to hear this phrase said quite often in the marketing space, but it was people have an attention span that is that of a goldfish, which I think was 6 seconds at the time. Technology and attention spans have transformed since then. And right now, it's about 2 seconds. You have to have a way to create content that's going to get someone to stop scrolling. And you have about 2 seconds to do that. So some of the things we have to be super helpful is to start with a textual appeal, like point of view approach or a list of the 5 things that are going to solve your problem by doing X, Y, and Z, or the pain point that someone is having that you're going to solve. Or it's something like kind of like when you sit down to TV right at the beginning, there's a tease of what's to come in the episode. Doing the same thing, especially in short form video, where you're teasing the climax of the video to get people to keep watching the more detailed body portion of it. For us in beauty, the most interesting thing that I think that Olivia and Jen, my team, of course, know that people want to see how a transformation from our services is going to look on them. So before and afters are tried and true. They're really helpful for social proof. But we found that when starting with the before and going to the after with, like 4 seconds in between, people were bailing. So now we do a short snip after, right at the beginning, before going through that transformation process. And it does a lot better for us, which is super interesting. You mentioned influencer culture. I think this has transitioned. So 10 years ago, influencers were new. They were novel. Millennials felt cool because listening to celebrities as endorsers. Now they were listening to real influencers who occasionally were reviewing products, services, brands, etc. But I believe that novelty is now wearing off, where it is ubiquitous that influencers, especially macro influencers, so those that are at the 100,000 mark or above, or even micro influencers, people kind of understand the shtick that if an influencer with any type of following is reviewing anything, they're being paid for it. And so it lacks the authenticity it once had. And so for Gen Z in specific, it's less celebrity like Gen X, baby boomers. It's less influencer like millennial, and it's more real people that have experienced a product that they can relate to, who they believe their experience will apply to them or me as the person that's consuming the information. So again, it's less influencer. Now it's more social creator, which is what you'll see TikTok use often. And then let's see, influencer, local authenticity. Local authenticity, I say all the time when I'm training new franchisees that are onboarding with any of our salons, we can create as a franchisor in our fantastic teams the most beautiful advertisement, the most beautiful organic social post or email. Every day of the week, an authentic local connection with a neighborhood is going to perform better than my polished brand content or anything that I'm sitting in my house away from my business, away from a business, real-time interaction with clients is going to create. So real stories, real people, real community, real partners, they can do that locally. And it doesn't have to be a high production thing or with a big budget. If they focus on telling the stories about how their brand, how their service, how their product is positively impacting communities, they're going to do something better than I can ever do sitting here. And then I can answer the next question part of this. I just wanted to check in and make sure that you didn't have any follow-ups before I get on to the next one. It's a little bit different as we get into trends.
Yeah, great point. I guess one follow-up and what I'm 100% on board with is really kind of showcasing that local community where it doesn't ultimately have to be packaged around the services. It's about more we are within your community. So it's collaborating, let's
It's
say,
really
with
great.
local businesses to do, I don't know, a garden project or something like that. Showcasing we're at a farmer's market, kind of getting the word out about what we're doing, or co-sponsoring a specific
That's
charity
huge. Yeah, that
drive.
investment in community.
And indeed, it definitely doesn't have to be high production. And typically, what we see from our point of view is that kind of content that's not high production really captures substantially more reach, more engagement back for that franchisee.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. If you can show your customers that you care about them and them isn't just like a mass them, it's a you them, that's huge. It goes a long way.
Yeah. And then it trickles back to, I guess, driving overall adoption from franchisees to get them more involved because you have those examples to show what looks great.
Mhm.
This is the desired outcome. This is how you can get involved. Just start doing it. Don't be scared.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Mhm. It's less of a blank white page and more can work off of something.
Indeed.
In terms of tackling cultural and industry trends that require near real-time participation, I think this is a great example of how local franchise marketing can shine. So at the franchisor level, we're always listening, we're always learning, and our content team is doing this both while they're on the clock at work, but they're also doing this on their own time as a consumer, evaluating the industries that we serve. So that's important. Research is also important. So we were lucky enough to use a tool for a while that was the coolest thing ever because it uses predictive analytics. It scans Google search trends and then it cross-references it with TikTok trends. So analyzing TikTok captions and comments, and then it mushes all that data together and it's able to extract time trend analysis across categories in addition to white space opportunities to own as a brand upcoming trends that haven't hit their full stride yet, and with also visibility into what your competitors are owning so that you can kind of figure out where your place is. And this is good for both content creation and even things like research. So that was really helpful for us to have the listening, like immersing yourself in culture while also taking advantage of professional tools. And for corporate, um, for in my agency days and now as a franchisor, just in a business environment, we work on a monthly planning schedule. It makes the sense. It makes sense, less efficient and get through all of the layers of approvals we need to get to while still being close to real time. But and what we have done is, though we're planning content on monthly cycles, we leave spaces for trends so that it's kind of like a trigger or reminder for us that once we schedule for the month ahead, we can't just like fail and just think that nothing is going to happen in real time. Like, let's revisit and see what we can do. But on the local level, they are in the business every single day. They are seeing what's happening in culture. They're seeing what's happening on TikTok and Instagram. They're talking with people. Oftentimes staff tends to skew younger. So they are on the pulse of what's happening. And at the drop of a dime, they can create something in real time because they're in the business environment or because they have those one-on-one relationships with their customers that we can't do as a franchisor. So I think this is where local can really shine. And as I go through some of owners' accounts and see what they've been able to do, I'm like on the ground laughing because they've been able to authentically apply a real-time cultural trend to their salon that is doing a service to our brand and supporting our brand, which is pretty neat.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Next topic. Why is consistency in the feed critical? And how can brands achieve it across every single location or territory?
This is a great question, and I credit my agency days a lot for sculpting how I think about this. Consistency in the feed is critical because it's a representation of your brand and how you.
Uh, Taylor, you want to unmute? You lost your audio there.
That's so odd. Can you hear me now? Okay, cool.
Perfect. Oh, you. Back on mute.
Sorry, Alex, it's saying the co-host has muted me on my end.
Very strange.
I'm going to try again, but the two notifications that I've gotten.
Perfect.
Um, so consistency in the feed is critical because it sets expectations for consumers on when they can expect to hear from your brand. And if you don't adhere to that, it's kind of saying in an unwritten way that they're not important enough to continue the cadence that they have now come to know, rely on, and look forward to. It's a professionalism that a consumer can expect to have, especially from a franchise brand. I think expectations are probably higher because not consumers don't always differentiate between corporate multi-unit and franchise brands with independent small business owners. So consistency is critical. And I think it starts with the franchisor doing a lot of the heavy lifting so that execution is more manageable for the franchisee. So for our salons and in my agency days, we handle the strategy. And one of the outputs of that strategic work, determining what we wanted to accomplish in our goals, was developing content categories, which are large buckets that inform the posts and the topics that we're writing about on a real-time basis. So for example, and this can span beauty really to about any industry, but some examples of our, at the Lash Lounge, our content categories are lashes. It's our primary service, so we're gonna write about it often. But it's things like staff, it's things like customers or guests, or experience is a big one for us. So showing the sensory experience of walking into the business. It's things like community, which kind of touches on your business partnerships or community events or charitable initiatives. It's things like products or promotions, limited time offers. So you can see those are pretty wide buckets but they list businesses. And when you go down to content, sit down to content plan each month, you're not starting from scratch. You're not starting from a white page. You're starting with, I need to make sure to cater to the categories that I have in place. And then you work backward and you select a topic, and then you write the captions, you shoot the multimedia, you edit it, etc. So we supplied our franchisees with a strategy, the categories, and then in an ongoing fashion, we know they're business owners, we know they're super busy, we know that they don't have all day to think about marketing. So we supply them with a base number of posts across social networks, and then we tell them, and I think this is really important, doesn't work in every franchise system, but you are required by being a franchisee with us to post this minimum amount of times from a hyper local standpoint. That means that me sitting at my desk in Ann Arbor, Michigan, I could not create this for you because I'm not in your business. You need to do it. So supplement what we give you locally. Starters to do so using a tool like Promo Republic or other social management tools. You can see what has worked well for your sister businesses in your franchise system. So you can get thought starters there. You can see what has worked well with competitors. So having a tool like that is super helpful for visibility. I think that we can reach aesthetic consistency and manage that a lot from the national level because we do comprise the majority of what our franchisees are posting locally. But especially in beauty, people expect for things to look like they came from the same place and to have a level of polish where people are going to give you their money. Content plan at the local level, we've given our franchisees a myriad of tools, from really long form strategic planning guides to when you sit down to plan content each month, here's like a 2-page PDF roadmap, to here's how you think about delegating within your business if you do not have any skills. So here's how your file structure can work. Here's how you can use apps to assist you. Here's how you can incentivize your teams to help create for you and show them the value of them contributing. We talk about the value of series when you're sitting down to create. So within those overarching content categories, what are series you can do this so you're not thinking so hard about what to post. You know that, for instance, every week you do a staff slay feature, or for a while we did a Not with Lashes series where we spoke to the pain points people were having and showed how lashes could solve them. So lessening the amount of effort is like gung ho. We have released recently guides and presentations about how AI can expedite the process, priming the pro version of ChatGPT with an understanding of your brand. And then after it's primed and understands, then giving it an actual executional task to create a content calendar along with post topics and captions that are then moderated, customized, and tweaked at the local level. And all you have to do is create the multimedia. So lots of attempts to handle a lot of the heavy lifting and rely on the locations to just execute minimally and local. One of the things that we have seen help too is to think about different, not only series, but different content approaches to be that are successful today. So Gen Z really responds to tutorials. So how do I do this at home? This thing that relates to your product. Day in the lives of staff at your business, kind of pulling the curtain back and seeing what life is like for them, how they interact with customers, what's most fulfilling to them. One of our top performing posts and ads was simply a stylist, very UGC style, saying, let me show you what a consultation looks like when a customer comes into our business. What are the questions they're asking? How do they determine which is the best service for them? It was simple, but it did great. Come with me guest posts. So if you're working with one of your customers that come into your business, have them shoot something. User generated content. What's it like for them? Simple product pics, before and after transformations in beauty, behind the scenes. What's happening that people want to know about that they might not think about? Bloopers. People want to laugh. They want to be entertained. They want to know that you're real as a business. Just little things that really humanize the solution and make it more accessible to their neighborhoods and communities.
Love it. Agree with absolutely every single point made. Out of curiosity, is there any ongoing gamification from a level of a brand to get franchisees more involved? Or how do you measure, like,
Yes,
let's
there
say
is, and I
overall,
know that
and
yes,
how would you measure overall kind of adoption? Are they picking it up and are they doing that in a timely fashion?
yeah, that's a great question. And I know tools like yours and tools that we have used do this for them. So we set local marketing KPIs, several of which overlap with organic, social, and review management. And so franchisees have access to their dashboards and can see at a glance how they're working towards those goals. And we can see from a roll-up level what's happening, including the amount of times that they're publishing to hit our minimums for hyper-local content. Uh, we don't gamify within that tool, but we do have what we call a marketing matchup. So we have those
Mhm.
local marketing KPI targets that we set every year. We have a wonderful local marketing manager, Lauren, who looks at performance from years past and sets aspirational goals for the year ahead. And each month she'll focus on a different local marketing KPI or creative excellence, and franchisees will compete to have top performance in each of those categories. So like, for instance, one month it was review response rate, and we were able to pull that data and award the franchisee who achieved the top review response rate. Another month it was submit a local email campaign that you sent out. Will determine, this is completely qualitatively, like brand on brand and creativity wise, who had the best one, and reward the franchisee who submitted the top campaign with an incentive every month. So it's difficult. I will be the first to say that in every system, you're not always going to have franchisees who choose to participate. We luckily have a system at the Lash Lunch where franchisees are quite active, but in my agency days, I mean, I think I wrote an article like 10 years ago about how I recommended only doing the opt-in model. So franchise could doing social and doing social well can have a page, but in industries and systems where you know that Joe, who has never done anything marketing related and sells disaster restoration is never going to open a Facebook page. And why is maybe Joe even on Facebook anyway? Like they're not like, I think the moral of the story is if you're going to gamify, make sure that you're doing it for a reason in an industry, that it makes sense on a channel that makes sense, and understand that you're never going to get full participation. It's figuring out how to support everyone wherever they're at on the bell curve, and understand that for some people, those laggards, they're never going to adopt. So you focus on moving the middle forward and supporting those at the top on an ongoing basis.
Love it. And that's a great pivot point that you brought up on the industry side, because indeed a lot of this is very applicable back to a specific industry, and disaster remediation is like the nail on the head. Especially with overall kind of role of social media marketing as a whole, I'd say it's a little bit different. Social creates an opportunity to constantly stay on top of your followers' mind that's already exposed to the brand, and it's very vital for that repetitive service. When it comes to disaster remediation, if you have to
Yep.
go through that, that's not something you want to get reminded about on your feed and hope to ever have to encounter in your life again.
Or exploit the poor people and businesses that have been victims of disaster. It's horrible.
Yeah, agreed. Uh, Next point. How can brands choose the right tools to create content that feels local and not corporate?
So this one, I think you can probably speak to quite a bit, but tools feels a bit intimidating for local social. For local content, it doesn't require much. We've already talked about authenticity, imperfections, creators, user generated content. Just adherence to an overall strategy and a commitment to regularly capture and create is what you need most. In terms of editing software, because we are talking a lot about TikTok and Instagram Reels, CapCut, CapCut Pro, it's a video editing app loaded with templates that were created by videographers that you can just like plug it for your business. It's basically allowing people who aren't professional videographers to create short form video content that speaks to this short form video audience across Instagram and TikTok. And it even does like basic beauty editing too. So it's like almost an all-in-one tool for short form video. When you are on site producing, I know that user generated content flies, but you need to try to maintain a minimum standard of quality so that lack of quality doesn't distract the viewer from the message you are trying to communicate. So what I mean by that is lighting. So considering a standing ring light, if you're trying to do more atmospheric, like phone clip light, if you're trying to do more directional, focused lighting, those things don't cost a whole lot, but they make a big difference production wise. Microphones. My lavalier mics for both the speaker and the guest, ideally ones that you can clip so they're not awkwardly holding this tiny lav mic in front of their face. Products and services that require a high level of detail to be shown. A macro lens doesn't cost a lot of money, but if I could share with you a photo of the difference between just taking a picture with your iPhone and taking a picture with your iPhone with a macro lens, the level of quality and detail of individual tiny lashes, it's night and day. And then I think a big tool also static social creative, either anywhere, is Canva, and understanding how as a franchisor we do 90% of the heavy lifting by anticipating the types of content that are going to fall within our content strategy that our owners are trying to create, and creating on brand pre-created templates that they can plug an image in, plug copy in, that's how I need to, and download. So eliminating the effort. And if you get like a higher level of Canva subscription, you can preload a brand kit, which has all your fonts with all of the like built-in graphic design parameters in there. It has all of your colors. It has your logo. So you're not relying on franchisees to find them somewhere on Teams or on Google Drive or wherever they live and import them in there. It's just at their fingertips so that they can do what they need to do quickly. Our social management software actually has Canva integrated in to it, which is also really helpful. So eliminating the amount of places franchisees have to go to create social content.
Love it, love it. And I guess one pivot point for me to add is ensuring kind of the tools and frameworks that you're putting in place adhere to the majority of franchisees and can be easily adaptable to how that specific business owner and entrepreneur likes to be supported. So it should be highly customizable for that
Mhm.
end user experience.
Mhm.
How can social and review data be turned into real time and in-feed relevance?
This is a really good question. So we see companies, and I've even seen requests from generations that are older than myself to feature reviewed text on social posts. But from a Gen Z perspective, that feels sort of like overt sales. They're not going to respond to something like that. What they do respond to, and we've covered as kind of an overarching trend, Gen Z, is raw testimonials from real people, but not the testimonials that I think maybe older generations are accustomed to filming, where someone's sitting down in a chair and they've got the three-quarters glance off to the side and there's an interviewer asking them questions with like pre-written speaking point. It's literally letting the customer tell their experience with their product or your service in their own words. It doesn't always have to be all in one take. It can be using a CapCut template to, cut to a close-up of whatever, like a part of your body that their service transformed. It could be allowing them to intermingle clips from their life that show your product or service in action and how it's affecting them emotionally after having received it. So it's more of a user-generated content approach than a look, Susie from Albuquerque really loves how great my business is. You should go here. It's more subtle. But we have seen an appeal to Gen Z kind of incorporating that review text if we need to visually show it as like maybe an overlay in a longer reel where you could have a peppering effect where a bunch of reviews pop up as a way to illustrate that whoever is talking in the beginning of the video, their sentiment is echoed by many others who have experienced the same brand. So kind of a different take. Um, I think qualitative review analytics are rare. And I mean, the analytics aren't rare, but the time that businesses take to look at tons of reviews holistically and draw conclusions from the qualitative information that's within is not happening very often. And I think that's because a lot of technology on the market, something that Promo Republic is actively trying to overcome right now and does a better job than most right now, is figuring out operationally what are people finding about your business that is really positive for them and what are some things that are really negative. So do people really love this particular dish at your QSR restaurant? Are people really disappointed with the level of personalized reading from the person at the front desk when they walk into your business? Are people upset that you don't innovate fast enough? Taking the time to figure out how people are feeling and then operationally tackling that and supporting what you're doing operationally and marketing messaging, there's so much opportunity in that. Also, if you're looking at reviews on a one-on-one, like individualized basis, because we know we want to respond to every review, especially the negative ones, on a local level, is there a really positive review where someone has just a really heartfelt, gripping story that they're sharing publicly in review? Can you contact that person and see if you can create content that shares their story? We've done a lot of experimentation with featuring our customers, both at this role I'm in right now and previous roles with other franchise brands. And when you take the time to dig deeper into a guest's life, and you really understand how your business is improving their lives, and then you figure out how to tell that marketing, like the performance analytics wise, both in terms of how often that piece of content is served and how much people are engaging with it, is night and day. So I could just take a picture of you now, Alex, and say, Alex, Alex is great, really, really awesome talking to him at CMO Peer Talks today. And and test that against a version where I'm talking about the length of time you've had at Promo Republic. I'm talking about how your kids fuel what you do day in and day out. There's like an outtake of you, of us laughing in a blooper reel. Like that is going to do way better than just the quick update. Because at the end of the day, like we know we have minimum to be, we need to be regular and consistent in social feeds. But if you're just doing it to hit a minimum requirement or to say you're there and it's not engaging those who you're trying to reach, there's no point because that's a higher opportunity cost than not doing anything at all. Let's see. Analytics. Okay. So I'm psychics and some have told me perhaps too much so. So I'm going to try to simplify social analytics. What my team does today is, and what I've done in the past, is to really analyze first at the category level. We use engagement rate as like our beacon metric in social content because again, in a service business, we're not really looking for bookings or leads from organic social content. It's more top of the funnel play to us. So we want to see like if someone saw, if an eyeball was on this piece of content, did they engage with it in some way, shape, or form? And we want to see how engagement rate by category varies by channel because not every channel is going to have the same content interest or engage the same. So we start at the category level. We get those trends that allows us to see what happens month over month, quarter over quarter by channel. And then we dig deeper into within those categories, what were the top posts, what were the bottom posts. And then we try to analyze trends within those. And then those trends allow us to create hypotheses. So one of our hypotheses be in our lash extension category, before and after transformations are doing well. What makes them do well? Our hypothesis is that showing a little bit of the face in that before and after transformation so that you can see the person and the service results is going to do better than just showing really close up transformation of just an eyeball where there's not a lot of identifiability. And then we'll create content in both of those. It's kind of like almost like it's a faux A/B test in those environments. And then we'll analyze performance over time to see which approach does better. So just using performance to drive hypotheses and then faux testing long term so that you can identify what's working and what's not. And another thing is Gen Z trends in performance, it's like lightning speed. So make sure you commit to a regular cadence for analysis and don't assume that something that worked last month is going to work this month. Their attention spans are short and they're constantly on the cultural pulse and creating culture in the moment. So it's up to you to be committed to understanding that environment while also learning from the past and iterating in the future.
Love it, love it, love it. I guess a idea or question on my side specifically to really capturing that more authentic testimony. Any sort of guidelines, best practices that you're providing to franchisees that you're seeing is working successfully to kind of get them to break the ice and ask a customer to do that?
That's a good question. I don't think we have anything formal, to be totally honest with you. Perhaps we should. I think that's a good idea. I think the guidance we do give franchisees, and it's similar to like asking for reviews at checkout, is to your staff and your owners, they have the emotional intelligence to understand when is the right time to ask someone to create for your business. So you're not going to go up to an unhappy customer and ask them to do anything for you, whether it's as simple as leaving a review or asking them for a short form video about their experience with your brand. Likewise, you're probably not going to ask a happy customer after their first experience at your business to do something for you and listen to you because that's simple. But it's like understanding when you have a relationship enough to ask for more from someone that's already in love with you and is more likely to do it. It's like I always think back to the lots of research that's been done by, I think it's Bright Local in the review space, but
Mhm.
the amount of people that if you just through will do it is like 90% or something. So like just use your requests wisely and with emotional intelligence. I think another thing that you can provide to franchisees that's always helpful, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, is an example of someone who has done it well and someone who has done it well that is not you, the franchisor, because actual hits way harder than something that we might provide for them because they have an expectation of some level of professionalism and polish because we are paid to do this on a daily basis. But someone that is starting at their acumen and their level, they're more likely to think, okay, I can do this.
Do you feel do you feel that new franchisees are more shapeable to do the best practices as opposed to legacy franchisees that are stuck in their old ways?
Yes, yes. And I
Do,
feel it is really important to set expectations for high performers, not necessarily in marketing, but high franchisees, that they are the models for the system and that they need to adhere to those guidelines to the best of their ability because they hold a lot of clout.
Interesting. Is there any sort of kind of leaderboarding happening? So you mentioned that Lauren is picking out a specific KPI to kind of dive deep into. Um, is it front and center,
Mhm.
whereas a franchisee, they can jump in and see how they're ranking just to kind of drive that friendly competition?
They can in our social tool. We are beginning to build an internal dashboard in Power BI that has the main local marketing KPIs. And then in our system, we're lucky, and I know it isn't like this in all systems, but we have many reports where you simply can sort by order of achievement across KPIs, and it's just public knowledge. And so that's where I hope we can get for all of head to toe brands, is creating this dashboard with the most important local KPIs, ability to see how you perform relative to other salons, and give them that visibility so that they can proactively say, hey, Emily, I see that you have been crushing this KPI for 6 months in a row, and I'm just really struggling with it. Would you mind taking 15 minutes and just talking to me about some of your best practices and facilitating that owner to owner communication that is often a lot more poignant than us collecting best practices and sharing it in a formal guide as a franchisor?
Love it. It ultimately also creates a path to featuring a franchisee that gets it and does it well to be kind of the front and center star of that case
Yeah,
study that could then be repackaged into
totally.
learning material into an LMS system. Perfect. Cut.
Yes.
Love it, love it, love it. Coming up on the 3 minute mark and being super respectful for everybody's availability. We've now hit the questions and answers. If anybody has any sort of questions, thoughts, maybe there was a similar challenge that you've overcome in your brand, would love to kind of open up the discussion panel into the comments. We don't bite, we promise.
I see a question from Andrew that came in around 12:40. I'm probably not to talk about this, but he said, how are banks or credit unions using this platform? And ironically, in my agency days, I did support a credit union. And I think banks or credit unions, especially credit unions, the fabric of their existence is commitment and integration into community. So focusing on those things that are specifically people oriented or community oriented, humanizing guests, staff, did the best for us versus focusing on like the credit union, the brand, um, never did as well. Financial education never did as well. Um, shouldn't probably be expecting anyone to sign up for a checking account from social. It's more to be a demonstration of commitment to community.
Indeed, yeah. A couple more questions coming in. Any specific tips for the healthcare industry? We know this demo cares deeply about their health and are interested in the topics, but are less likely to schedule annual checkups. Taylor, any perspective on how that could be applicable?
I it's been a long time since I've worked in healthcare, so I don't know that I can speak intelligently about that. I'd be curious to see if anyone else is in healthcare specific. Can you speak to it?
Brittany, on my side, I'd say just kind of looking through some of the use cases I'm familiar with, more so probably from the dental side, is taking more of an educational style approach of why it's critical. Investment into a simple cleaning now will save you a lot of headache down the line in 5 to 10 years. And I guess it needs to then be pivoted specifically to the medical practice that you're referring back to.
I
And
used to work, this is like ages ago, but a health insurance company. And we focused a lot on preventative health education. So demystifying some of the diseases, educating people about what they were and what you can do now to prevent onset of that disease later, which works for everyone, both the insurance company and the customer.
good point, good point. And then we have one more question from Max. How important is it being part of a local community for Gen Z, or do you sense that they are more global minded?
I don't think it's either or for Gen Z. Uh, Gen Z is very environmentally conscious and socially and politically activated. So I think they're very self-aware of what's going on at the macro level, and then there's they're compelled to be that change in their local community. And I think they're paying attention to brands' points of view and their actual tangible steps to be a part of that larger social and political landscape as well.
Agreed. And I'd say it's also very moldable based on the local communities that they're actually within themselves. And that would vary substantially. On that note, I know we're a couple minutes past the hour. Taylor, thank you so much for your time, your expertise, your wisdom, and a big thank you for everyone who connected and stayed and made it to the very end. My closing thoughts,
Thank you.
whether you're a multiple location marketer, you can really kind of drive that success with the right blend of storytelling and really kind of blending in that local authenticity. Whether you're doing it from a corporate marketing standpoint and you need to pivot to your territories, your locations, or if you have the luxury of having franchisees, really kind of activating them so they super shine what their local communities and what they're about and what their authenticity looks like. Having the right technology only makes that workflow more simple and more predictable. We hope to see everybody on future episodes of CMO Peer Talks and wishing everybody a productive remainder of the week. Thank you again, Taylor.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Take care.